The gaming industry has not been doing well recently, over maybe the past year or two now, and as a result, it would seem that every piece of news that comes out about the gaming industry, especially regarding small studios, is very negative, really depressing. But this is actually a positive one. I'm really happy about that. This is actually really good news for a smaller indie dev, and they are called Vlambeer. So this is a Dutch indie developer that was started in 2010, and it was around for about 10 years before shutting down in 2020. Now, during this 10-year period, they released a few shooters, pretty good ones. According to the ratings that I am seeing, the most notable one is called Nuclear Throne. That was released in 2015. That is a big kind of shoot-'em-up indie game. I have seen it featured a lot on like Xbox Game Pass. I don't know if it's still on there, but it's kind of just one of those 2D or 2.5D shoot-'em-up games that's pixely and colorful. It looks cool. It looks fun. That's probably their most known and highest critically acclaimed game. And ironically, that is actually their last game they developed. So from 2010 to 2015, they were around. They made a few games. And then after 2015's Nuclear Throne, they were still active for about 5 years, but eventually in 2020, they shut down. Now, the reason for this, as was stated by the developer, was that the two co-founders, Rami Ismail and Jan Nijman, they kind of were veering off in two separate directions after the release of Nuclear Throne. Rami was more focused on supporting advocacy and diversity in the video game atmosphere, whereas Jan wanted to keep making games. So in 2020, they announced they were parting ways, and as such, they were shutting down the studio, but both still had 50% ownership in the studio. So that was the end of an era. It was really disappointing, especially because, like I said, the last game they released, Nuclear Throne, it did very, very well, and as the years went on, it just got more and more critically acclaimed and noticed. And not to mention the fact that they definitely shut down at, from a profit perspective, a terrible point. Yeah, they shut down in 2020, and, well, as you probably know, 2020 and 2021 were very great years in the gaming industry. Due to COVID, a lot of people were locked down, a lot of people were playing video games, so the gaming industry thrived. So yeah, unfortunately, from a revenue perspective, they picked a bad time to leave the gaming atmosphere. But it was what it was. They were going in separate creative directions, and it looks like over the past 4 years, they've kind of kept those same separate directions. Jan, it looks like, continues to make kind of smaller games. Well, fast forward to today, 4 years after they were shut down, it has been announced that Vlambeer is actually coming back. Yeah, very good news. So what had happened was, during the past 4 years, both co-owners or co-founders had 50% of the shares in the studio, but as they just announced today, Rami decided to sell his 50% share of the company to Jan, which again, if it's kind of hard to follow, Jan is the one that stayed developing smaller games. So now Jan officially has 100% ownership of Vlambeer, making him basically the sole owner of it. So now, as a result, Vlambeer has reopened its doors. They are officially coming back. Now, unfortunately, really the only thing we know right now about their plans for the future is, well, two things. One is that they're going to continue to support their previously developed games. I assume that will come in the form of like updates, stuff like that. But the other is that their first plan is to finish development of the game they were developing after Nuclear Throne that didn't end up getting pushed out. So that game is called Ultra Bugs. They're going to finish that, they're going to push it out, and then who knows where they will go from there. Once again, though, I mean, as far as the timing goes, now for this company to reopen, it's maybe not ideal because, like I said, things in the gaming industry are a little rocky right now. But regardless, this guy Jan, he definitely seems to have a very good passion for developing these games, and the passion is still there just like it was 14 years ago when him and Rami started Vlambeer. So definitely some exciting stuff. It is nice to kind of talk about something positive in the small game development landscape for a change. Like I said, their biggest game was Nuclear Throne, and that was their most recent game. So with them coming back, I wouldn't be surprised if they, Vlambeer, start putting out some really good games. They've come a long way. They've definitely had their ups and downs, but now Vlambeer is back from the dead, hopefully ready to start making some really good games, and hopefully continue to make some very critically acclaimed games as they navigate through the somewhat rocky video game development landscape.